So in this video, I want to specifically focus on putting the impulse to advocate for you into some forms. And here's a little bit of what I'm trying to respond to in the negative, which is hundreds of hours of therapy in which no one fully understands the terrain or dives in with me or says, here's some strategies to start thinking about. In other words, in this most emotional of terrains, I get a very feminine, i.e. passive response from both men and women. The judgments are masculine, like, get on with it and that kind of thing. But the actual responsiveness is very feminine. So you need to pair. So depression, etc., is often a very feminine experience. You need to pair that with a masculine response. And the way I look at it is that we need to learn to be our own inner masculine and feminine. And the best dynamic is when we, as the creative, initiatory, proactive, and assertive and strategic masculine, care and respond and are the hero for our receptive, vulnerable, emotional, sensitive feminine. We all have both inside. So one of the things that's happening with the modern world is those heroes are often not there on the outside, and so we need to find them on the inside. So that's a little bit what I'm going to riff about. And I'll begin by waking up this morning. So and just looking at some of my own strategies and kind of how to flow and dance with things, because they may give you some ideas. The key that I want you to take away, though, is not the exact details, but the assertiveness and the right and the importance of being assertive to do something, to care for your inner state. Everyone benefits. Like, you have absolutely unique perspectives, gifts, contributions that you alone can make in your world. And those are absent when mental emotional disease obscures that. It is therefore the most selfless thing you can do is to become healthier as a way of being fully you and contributing your gift, including your dissonance. Your dissonance is not a symptom of you being in the wrong place. It's often a symptom of the lack of complexity in the environment. If you've got an interesting sound and the environment is too monotonous, it will sound a little bit off. If you've got that same interesting sound in the midst of a beautiful jazz composition, for example, it may bring magic and sparkle. So what needs to change? You or the environment to embrace? And of course, there's a little bit of a dance between taking yourself into environments that are beautiful and in which you appear beautiful, and changing environments and educating environments so that more environments reveal your beauty as you are in the location that you are. So last night, finding it hard to sleep, I talked with Jen. I watched a bit of The Lord of the Rings. I meditated. I listened to her diary. I made a video recording in this series. And I listened to soothing music. And then, eventually just toughed it out, as my brain didn't want to go down into some of those feelings, and kind of fought it. And then as soon as I woke up, didn't want to be present and wake up into these feelings. So when I wake up, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, my back is hurting, and I'm clawing for something. So I claw for this camera. And I make probably a 2-hour recording, kind of exploring some of this stuff. I'm giving myself medicine. I feel invisible. I feel lonely. There's so many layers of hidden stuff covering all that stuff. And I at least want to know what's going on. And you, the audience, become the focal point that is intense enough as a focus to cut through the dissociative and dominant past emotions bubbling up. So having an outer focus, in this case of being of service, for me is a gift. Because we are profoundly caring human beings, and as soon as I feel like this, my mind often goes to, there's a lot of other people feeling like this, and no one's doing anything for them. No one's doing anything for me, so why would they be doing something for them? That's not right. These people have been abused, hurt, betrayed, abandoned, and now nobody's doing anything for them. They're just being left to rot in their own suffering. It's a pathetic treatment protocol in the culture. So what can I do? The more miserable I feel, the more passionate I feel about doing something for others in a similar state. That passion cuts me through using my narrow beam focus to escape the diffuse overwhelm of past memories and things bubbling up. So for a couple of hours, I have nothing exists except for the reality that one human being is taking a stand for a group of similar human beings with the idea of help. This pleases me. I always feel happy when I see that happening. Whether I'm doing it or somebody else is doing it, doesn't matter. It makes me happy when we're in a world where human beings care about one another. So, an hour and a half later, I have more empathy for myself because I've talked about it and I'm getting, this is why I feel this way. It's not crazy, it's just logic. And so that helps. I pause and have breakfast in between. I have breakfast brought to my room. I'm in a hotel at the moment. And that just helps me not have to kind of claw myself out of this state enough to try and figure out how to interact with other people who I'm not intimate with. My girlfriend's busy, so I ask her to lay down and cuddle with me rather than being busy. Because it's all this very, very soft, fuzzy, heavy, thousands and thousands of small layers of dust just settling on top of me. And the whole pressure is towards silence, invisibility, shame, secrecy, helplessness. So I got to fight it with the opposite. So I'm more bossy with myself and my girlfriend. I apologized to her, and we've kind of agreed that that's part of our balance and it works for us. And so I'm more bossy with myself, with us. I'm focused on a goal, an outward that I can do. I cut through all the silence by talking until there's not much else to say, to where I feel there's transparency. I give something in service, and I feel that, this will probably help someone, at least to feel like they're not invisible, and that's good. And I express some of my anger and resentment in some of my criticisms of the culture, etc. Release that, not just stuff it. So that's good. So clawing my way out. Other things, though, that I've done recently that have helped. Lazarus is a channel at lazarus.com, and he does blendings at times, he, they. And when I was 13, I came across a tape at a boarding school I was at. Was a Lazarus tape. And I was very depressed then, in this very, very spacey, timeless place. And I discovered that Lazarus's presence reached all the way down to the bottom of that depression and touched me there. And I said, aha. I don't have full mental resonance with Lazarus. Not everything he says makes sense. Not everything he says seems to line up with the facts. Not everything he says I have any way of knowing one way or another. And so on a purely mental level, let's be like, just be open-minded and have an openness. So my rapport is more on when I'm in my darkest places. Lazarus, on an alchemical resonance level, I feel peace, I feel seen, I feel joy, I feel lifted. Now, that I have complete accord with. What do I mean? That's exactly what I want, a state of well-being, joy, lift, and being present with someone in all the states that I'm in, as opposed to so dissociated that I can't feel anything, and I don't even feel that people feel what they don't feel. In other words, I'm alone, and I'm alone as the only one that knows I'm alone and knows the states that I'm in alone in, and nobody even knows that they don't know. Or if they do, they don't care. So there's this layers of loneliness, and instead to have a presence, a consciousness that's there. And regardless of the words, they're there. And I see happy couples in that kind of a dynamic where they disagree on this and that and the other. But the bottom line is, when they spoon together at night, they feel safe and they feel comfortable. And so my mind has been very enriched at times in my life with some of Lazarus's ideas and humor and stuff. And puzzled and confused and skeptical and this and that. That's all great. That's the mental relationship. And physically, there is no relationship in the sense of body. But energetically, emotionally, there's been 2 depressions now, one when I was 13 and one recently, where Lazarus has, in a meditation, lifted 50% of that weight. Now, it doesn't matter if it's placebo. It doesn't matter if I lifted it in that meditation. It doesn't matter why. The correlation is what matters. In other words, logically, I'm on board with anything that doesn't do any harm, that lifts pain 50%. I mean, it's better than drug statistics. It's better than most placebo statistics. So, good job. And so, I've done some Lazarus meditation and lifting. I also have done a lot of these recordings, audio recordings. So, and here's my tool. So on email, because I'm too tired to type some of this stuff, I use JD voicemail for free to audio type, or just to narrate emails, and then it compresses them, and I click send, and I type in an email address, and it goes straight from my laptop out, and I'll sometimes talk for an hour and talk about all the nuances of stuff that is so frustrating that I don't have time to type it all, and it's so frustrating that nobody sees it and then covers it over with their projections, none of which I want. I just want the reality of what's going on to actually be seen and heard as it is. 2, Mobizon for Samsung and Mobizon, just general, as an app, allows me to draw and record my notes and my audio. I've got a little mic here, or the audio from my phone, and talk for hours, and then upload that to Dropbox, and then my assistant sends it over to the site. 3, just plain video recordings using a phone and a simple $10 tripod. I use my Samsung Note 3, which you can now get used for $200. So these are my technical tools. I spend money on really soothing present massage. In the Philippines, that's $10 an hour to $20 an hour. And I've spent up to a month getting 5 hours a day healing massage, because just the gentleness has allowed me to cope with pain and release it. So that's what it takes. I'm game. And on Audible, I bought around 400 books in the last few years. About half of them are on business. And I've used some of the business things to improve my business. Learning about SEO, learning about website design, learning about virtual assistants. Virtual assistants are heaven. In this train, I have this amazing virtual assistant. He works 3 hours a day for me. He's the best employee I've ever had. And in my stupor haze, as my mental, emotional clarity has gone down, I can just say, Devang, look at this website over here. Here's the link. Do something like that over here. Put these videos here. Email me the link when you're done. And he does it. And then I go back into my stupor of, fogginess and exhaustion and projection and running over painful conversations in my head with this and that person and all that horror. But stuff gets done. I get to feel like at least something's happening. I'm not just, so 5 minutes gets leveraged into stuff happening. And I care for other people. When I see people in need, I love championing them. So that's great. And I record ideas also. When I have good ideas, I have another channel called Ideas Worth Action. And anytime I have a great idea and I think, why on earth isn't this happening? Rather than just complaining, I describe the idea in detail, put it out there, and hope somebody does something with it. If they improve upon it, great. If it sparks something, great. Nothing happens, I've at least done something. And I stay up to date on things. I take vitamins. I take a multivitamin. Since I'm vegetarian, I take a B12 vitamin. I take a vitamin D3 vitamin. At home, I have a SAD light, which is a full spectrum light I bought on Amazon for around $60. Whenever I'm typing and in my little cocoon, which is often late at night, I have that light going. It helps. I have feet warmers that help. By chemical heat sensors, I run cold-blooded. I feel small and helpless when I'm cold and I'm alone. Well, I can take away the cold part by putting on a heat pad and feeling like someone's caring for me. So I put those heat pads on. Again, I buy those on Amazon. When I'm feeling too depressed and dissociated with my body, I try and go out and go for a walk. Like I'm going to go play golf in a few minutes. Or I try and be sexual. I cannot be sexual with someone who doesn't love and isn't sensitive. I don't care about prostitution or not, but I need to care and feel cared about by the person. It's so hard to find present quality time when I'm available and in a space to have it. I have at times resorted to various forms of paid sexual touch. What do I mean? I've paid a prostitute in Thailand for only $30 an hour, not to have sex, but to cuddle with me. Just to give me oxytocin in my whole body. And she looks at me a little strange. But they're very warm and attentive in Thailand. And so, cuddling boosts well-being. I've gone to cuddle parties, cuddleparty.com, boosts well-being. I've gone to Human Awareness Institute workshops, high workshops, boosts touch, intimacy, well-being. I do crystal meditations. I hold crystals and try and feel their love, their energy, which when I'm really sensitized and raw, I feel a lot more than sometimes when I'm kind of in my more kind of obscure, clouded, desensitized place and really active in the world. So I do that. I will tend to things in the future, my business, things like that, so that I have income. I create safety cushions, like, what's the worst that could happen here? How can I buffer that and kind of create that? How can I have an emergency fund? This and that and the other. I stay debt-free. And when I'm debt-free, that helps. So I stay debt-free. So I don't have extra pressure. I do not take on responsibilities because as soon as I do, then I'm worrying if I'll fail and blah, 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 blah. I read. If I'm too exhausted, I read on Audible. Things like, positive psychology, brain neuroscience, the When the Body Keeps the Score, The Body Never Lies, fun books, children's books, things that create upliftment or deep engagement. Sometimes I'll play board games. They're a mixed batch. They'll give me the narrow beam focus, but they're also so void of emotion and responsiveness. I do kind things for people where possible, particularly children. And I write books on topics that interest me, which at the moment, like I wrote a book on shame in the last 12 months, following every nuance of shame throughout my whole life. I just wanted to know why I felt so fucking bad. Where did all this pile of crap come from? Well, I just followed it. I felt this, I was criticized for feeling that, I said this, I was shamed for that, I was misunderstood when I said this, when I wanted to do this. It's just layer upon layer. It didn't come from me. I was being healthy in myself, and one layer after another, I said this, people completely ignored me as if I had no value whatsoever. I said, you're ignoring me, and they said, we're not ignoring you, but I don't have time to talk about it. It's like thousands. So I just thought, I just want to know what I'm dealing with. So wrote it all out, 300 pages. Trauma. What are the traumas in my life? Where does it come from? Why am I so terrified? Wrote it all out. Fuck protecting people. When you're feeling this shitty and you're trying to claw yourself out of a cave, fuck protecting the abuser. Of course, they don't want to hear publicly or otherwise how much they impacted you. Your parents don't want to hear, your friends don't want to hear. They don't want to hear. Are they doing anything about it? Are they helping you out of the prison that they've cumulatively dumped all over you? Or are they just saying, stay over there in prison, we don't have time to get you out, and please don't tell anyone we stuck you there, because it would make me look bad, which is the whole reason I did that to you anyways. I didn't want to look bad, so every time you talked about an emotion, I just made you look like an idiot. I didn't tell you anything vulnerable myself, blah, 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 blah. This is my program to look good. Please look bad on your own over there. And I'm not going to be loyal to you as a friend, but I hope you'll be loyal to my good image. I mean, it's not a fair contract, you know. If they're helping you out of the stuff and there's a good way out, great. If they're just dumping that on you and throwing it, I don't think committing suicide or treating other people who did nothing wrong badly in order to protect people in their misguided attempt to focus on image and not deal with anything themselves, I don't think that's doing anyone a favor. So hell with that. Let go of loyalties and focus on who you are and bringing it to the world. Look at things that work. Make a list of 10 things that might work. Any of them you're willing and able to do that work within your budget, like maybe you have a $50 budget, maybe you have a $10 budget, maybe you have a $10,000 budget. 1 year I gave myself a $30,000 budget, and just per dollar spent, I wanted to see the cumulative impact of well-being on as many people as possible. Want to know the secret? The Traxxas VXL Stampede 4x4 waterproof radio control truck. Goes 65 miles an hour, can drive through streams and lakes and oceans, is almost indestructible, 4-wheel drive. It just gets wonder, delight, pleasure, and joy from people walking their dogs, from young children, takes me out in the parks, and it gives me a narrow beam focus of control rather than just leaving me in this aimlessness of wide beam focus and having all these ugly thoughts come in. So, great. $600, hundreds of hours of joy and well-being for hundreds of people. Love it. Engage, brings in social connections. That was a kind of surprise. Going to Thailand, huge win. Been to Thailand 12 times since. So put the emotion first, put your well-being first. Know it's not about you. Write down where it's coming from so that you can witness it as opposed to living it. You can watch the thoughts and see where they came from. Oh, that's my mom. As usual, finding what's wrong with me about all this. Okay. This is my dad. Yep. I'm completely worthless and not worth feeling anything for. Okay. This is my best friend who's nervous anytime I get emotional. So of course I'm feeling embarrassed that I'm having feelings. Okay. This is my teacher who said world doesn't work that way and you can't be emotional. Okay. So this is so-and-so. None of this is me. I'm a beautiful spark come into this world with a lot of vulnerability and innocence and wonder, and all this stuff is just layered on me. Now what's me at this point is, to what extent can I ask for help, receive help in a form that works for me, i.e. an audiobook, an article, a YouTube video, a comedy show, a movie, an outing with a friend, whatever, that allows me to be more of me and bring that into the world. If you're in a depressed, traumatized, miserable state, I mean, regardless, I care about that. And I may or may not be able to do anything in a personal sense to help you with that. I will do everything I can with these free videos to share anything that seems like it could be helpful, that's been helpful to me. I will gratefully receive any help that you have found beneficial to you and share it with others. You can go to the volunteer page for that and just share a resource. And yeah, and I'm going to keep kicking, fighting, balancing things in the best way that I can day to day, learning, growing, Healing. Another thing I love to do is play and laugh with my girlfriend. And the biggest thing I'm making peace with is this wide diverge from joy and ecstasy and play and beauty to hopeless, miserable fatigue, exhaustion, insanity, just shame and rage and helplessness. So there's this big gap between these two extremes. Each time I go up and down that curve, I try and notice what takes me down. I try and notice what takes me up. I gather the data. I see what I can do. I look at the architecture. Oh, here are the thoughts that build this state. Here's the body sensations of this state. Where is it located? Okay, I've got something here. Is there anything I can do physically to adjust that? If I jump up and down? And it can even be funny in a very black humor sort of way. Like, there's a complete joke. I can barely move my body. And I'm just going to enjoy the complete joke that this is the best this culture can do. It's me jumping up and down on my bed just to stay conscious and out of complete stupor. Because if I can get my blood running a little bit, maybe I'll have a thought that cuts through this haze and be into the light. Well, I don't have anything better to do, so let me jump up and down on the bed and find that path. And let me also mock and look at the absurdity that we're in this amazing technocratic digital age and almost no money and no effort is being spent to gather data on this. Like, I'm just sticking this out there on YouTube. There's no apps. It's just absurd. This is not on you. This is not on me. The joke is on us. We as a culture lose when our sensitive and brilliant people go insane or commit suicide or whatever. We all lose. We lose their inventions, their innovations, their perspective, their kindness, their gifts. We lose that. If that's okay, then we'll keep doing that. But it's a little bit absurd. So looking at that absurdity, and I can't think of anything else in particular. Sometimes I'll look for stimulating conversations with people and just see what works. Good luck.